Welcome back to my krautrock collection, episode 2. Today we will be dealing with the D's to the G's. Actually, there aren't any records in my collection on D, so we'll start off with E. And let's start off with a classical heavy rock progressive band from Germany called Eloy. The first record in my collection is Power and the Passion from 1975, and by this time Eloy have released several albums. I think they started out in the late 60s and released their first album in 1970 or 71. This is, as I said, classic prog heavy rock and quite accomplished. To some, the vocals might be an acquired taste, but if you like the vocals, you love Eloy. Eloy released many of their records on the famous Harvest label in Germany, and this one is from 1975, as I mentioned. The next album I have is Eloy Ocean, which continues in the same heavy progressive vein. Nothing much to say about this album except for it's a magnificent one. As I said, if you like the vocals, which is an acquired taste, quite wonderful cover art there. Eloy's records are quite affordable to buy. They were quite popular in Germany, and their records were re-released many times. This is their 1980 album Colors, and now this is where I lose my interest. Still quite good, but through the 80s I'm not too keen on Eloy. Next up we have another quite experimental band called Embryo. Embryo started out in the late 60s and were a sort of jazz rock band. And a little bit of warning for those of you who don't like horns. These records feature saxophone. This album was originally released on the Or label, and it was one of the first 13th releases, and the originals had a balloon attached to the front. This is a Mirror re-release from the 2013, quite good quality and affordable price. Embryo's second album was called Embryo's Rush, and it's not, in my ears, as strong as Opal, their first one. This is from 1971, and it's also a Mirror re-release with a CD of the album. Embryo was, as I said, quite experimental in the jazz rock direction, and their third album, Father, Son and the Holy Ghost, which I remember, if I remember the title correctly, is also another one to get. But into the 70s, Embryo went in a more typical jazz rock fusion way, and I don't find their records in the later 70s that interesting. Next up we have a heavy rock band from Germany called Eulenspiegel, and this is actually their first album, even though it's called Two or Zwei in German. I don't know why their first album is called Two, but anyway, this is the first pressing with the uncensored cover. This cover with the burnt chicken created lots of reactions, so the label or the record company decided to pull it from the shelves and re-release it without the burnt chicken. It was airbrushed out. This is another highly collectible album on the Spiegelei label. Let me show you a picture of the Spiegel label. Here you go. This is, well, what can you say? Traditional heavy rock. Some of the lyrics are in German and some are in English. Very solid album. Eulenspiegel released several albums through the 70s. This is unfortunately the only one I got. But I really recommend Eulenspiegel 2 if you like heavy rock. Next up we have one of the most famous krautrock bands, alongside Can of course, and we are talking about Faust. And if my camera catches the cover, this is the first Faust album, simply called Faust. And they were originally released in a clear plastic cover with the print on the plastic itself, sort of an X-ray image. The LP itself was released on clear vinyl. This reissue of course is somewhat misty, and the Polydor issues are quite expensive these days. Most of these albums are scratched because of the plastic cover. Now, what can we say about Faust? Faust were highly experimental and creative. They used the studio as a form of composer, if you wish. They used effects and tape loops and makeshift instruments and composed along as they recorded. So this is quite experimental and avant-garde and far out. But still, Faust had quite melodic elements to them, even though some of the other elements are far out and experimental. This is a great place to start if you like the more experimental avant-garde side of the krautrock scene. Next up we have Faust's second album, simply called Faust So Far. And this was released in 1972, I guess. The first one was from 1971. This is a Four Men with Beards re-release on 180 gram vinyl, because Faust originals are hard to come by and quite expensive. This is an excellent re-release. Quality pressing and faithfully reproduced with all the original artwork. So if you are keen on getting reissues, I can highly recommend this Four Men with Beards reissue. Comes with all the inserts, which was in the original. Beautiful pictures. This continues in the same direction as its preceder. Highly experimental, avant-garde, yet melodic, and simply marvelous. Faust is a challenging listen, but quite rewarding if you give it a chance. So, that was Faust So Far. Next up, we have the third album called The Faust Tapes. And this is an original on Virgin Records, an English release, UK pressing actually, because Faust, I don't know if they had commercial success, but they were released in the UK as well. They just continue what they do, experimenting, using the studio as an instrument, 2 drum kits, makeshift instruments, just marvelous. And this is one which perhaps is the most easy to get an original of on the UK Virgin label. Not too expensive. The last Faust album I have in my collection is the Faust 4 album from 1973. And this is also a re-release on Capitol Records / Virgin Records. And it's on this album that Faust made a song or a track called krautrock. They didn't like the term krautrock and thus made a 12 minute long epos called krautrock. Comes with a printed inner sleeve, won't show that too long. So, if you want to start somewhere in your kraut discoveries, start with confidence with the Faust albums. Next band is Flor de Cologne, the gang from Cologne, the city. This album is the third or fourth, I don't really remember, from the early 70s, called Lucky Strike Rock Jazz Rakete. Flor de Cologne were highly political and radical in their lyrics, so this is, if you like, political rock. Quite basic, although somewhat experimental. Garage sounding, I would say. And many of their albums are quite enjoyable, a quite enjoyable listen. But mind you, all the lyrics are in German. So if you are not familiar with the German language, well, perhaps Google Translate will help you. But I find Flor de Cologne enjoyable to listen to, and this is an original on the Mach das Uhr auf, Uhr Records label. These are not too expensive as originals, and they haven't seen too many reissues. I think their political views perhaps are somewhat out of date. But if you like political rock, garage type rock, Flor de Cologne might be something for you. Next up we have an obscure band called Gea. And this is the first and only released album of its day, called Auf der Bahn zum Uranus. This is a picture disc edition which is available on the market today. It doesn't sound too bad, but not for an audiophile freak. This is a re-release on Garden of Delights, still available, especially on these Discogs, I think, for an affordable price, because the originals on Kirsten from 1973 are extremely collectible and expensive. It was a small run, and well, it's very sought after today. And Garden of Delights is a very good reissue label. They always reissue their albums with an insert, with a bit of photographies and biography. So go for the Garden of Delights re-release. It's only printed in 1,000 copies, but I'm sure it will see another repressing. This is cosmic prog rock, typical from Germany of that time. All the lyrics are in German. Now, Gea went on to record another album, a follow-up album. They never completed the recordings before they broke up. This is called Alraunes Albtraum and was released in 2015 by Garden of Delights. Now, the first side consists of recordings made in 1975 and is quite good. It's a sad thing they broke up and never made this second album complete. Second side is from a reunion in the mid-80s, and the recordings are demos from the mid-80s, and I have to tell you, they sound not as good as the 70s recordings. So I recommend this album for the A side, but be warned, the B side isn't as good. Gea. Next up we have a band called Gila. They were originally called Gila Fuchs, but shortened their name to Gila, and this is their first album simply called Gila. Gila is cosmic space rock. They have been compared to Pink Floyd. I do hear Pink Floyd elements, but they have their own sound. So do not think too much about Pink Floyd when you hear Gila. Quite a lot of instrumental passages, some spoken words, a little bit of vocals, but this is a fantastic album. Gila's first, I highly recommend you go and get. This is actually an original on the BASF label, which released some kraut records and jazz recordings and other stuff. An odd label. Gila broke up in 1971 after recording their first album, but the guitar player, let me see here, Connie White, continued with the band name and regrouped and released a second album called Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee in 1972 or 73. And this is a bit more folk rock oriented than its preceder. And here you see the legendary Florian Fricke from Popol Vuh and Daniel Fischler, who also played in a major role in Popol Vuh and in Armandul too, actually. If you like the more folky side of things, this is a great album. This is a re-release on, I don't know if it's a counterfeit or bootleg, but it's on Warner Brothers blue vinyl. Some of these pressings do tend to sound a bit crackly, so be warned. The last album by Gila in my collection is a fairly recent release. It's a live recording from 1972 in Cologne, and it's called Free Electric Rock Session. And this is from the first incarnation of Gila, from the first album, and it's just a marvelous live recording. Almost all instrumental, very cosmic and excellent sounding on the Second Battle label, which has released a lot of great recordings and reissues, high quality pressings. So my recommendations are the first Gila album and this Free Electric Rock Session live in Cologne. The last band in today's episode which I would like to present is the magnificent Guru Guru, with Mani Neumeier on vocals, if you would like to call it that, and drums, and Uli Trepte on bass guitar. The guitar player on this first album and their second album, and I think perhaps third album, is called Ax Genrich. And this is the classic Guru Guru lineup. This is the first album called UFO, and it was released in 1970, and it's a milestone when it comes to acid space rock jam music. Freeform avant-garde. The rumors have it that they were taking large amount of LSD in this period, and it sounds that way, but in a good way. This is a far out album. Excellent choice. If you would like to start on the more experimental side of things, in the krautrock scene, Guru Guru is a solid starting point. This is a 90s reissue on the Think Progressive label. It looks like this. On heavy 180 grams or 200 gram vinyl. Just excellent, far out, trippy sounds from Guru Guru. For the next album, with the same lineup as the first, called Hinton, they found themselves in still the same experimental cosmic space rock way, but a little bit more jazz rock leanings and a little more structure to the songs or tunes or tracks, or what you would like to call it. Funny cover art. Hinton is of course the butt or the behind. This was also released on the Or label. Nice spread in the gatefold there. This is actually a 2016 re-release. Mani Neumeier has finally claimed the rights to all of the recordings and are now re-releasing his back catalogue, including Guru Guru, which I think still is active after all these years. This is very, very good music. You can tell that the guitar player is strongly influenced by Jimi Hendrix, but it's still freeform, spacey, cosmic jammy, but a little bit more structure. The third album was called Kenguru. Keng Keng, Guru Guru, and this is a 1972 album. Now Uli Trepte and Ax Genrich are still here. This is the classic lineup for me anyway, and takes the Hinton side of things a bit farther. This is a repressing, a mid-70s repressing on Brain Records, one of the classic labels. The next album I have in my collection is called Tango Fango, and here you can see it's merged into a quartet. This is the 1976 release, and it's only Mani Neumeier, the drummer, left in the lineup, but he is the driving force behind the band, and you can tell it's Guru Guru on the sound, even though they have what can I say, developed into a more jazz rock kind of sound, but still a very enjoyable album. This is also a Brain pressing, an original. This is the label design from the mid to late 70s. Well, that's it for this episode, and we have managed to go all the way to the G's. That's all. Thanks for now. Thanks for watching.